Good morning. I am State Senator Joe Panaccio. Welcome to the third in a series of hearings. We continue to study the administration's COVID response. Our meetings have been so very well received and appreciated by the public. It is our expectations that as we continue in the future, we will be able to gain new witnesses and new testimony that can add to the discourse and continue these hearings. Today, joining our legislative panel will be Senator Testa, Senator O'Scanlan, Senator Corrado, and newly minted Senator Schepisi. Also joining us will be our Assembly partners, Assemblyman Schaffenberger and Assemblywoman Dunn. Welcome all. Prior to asking any questions, our panel will be able to give their brief opening remarks. Now, just some housekeeping and instructions to the witnesses before we begin. Unless you are actively testifying or answering questions, please keep your microphone muted. If you are not a current panelist, your video will not appear in the meeting. We will bring witnesses into the meeting when it is close to your time to testify. For witnesses who are still waiting to appear, we'll provide directions and updates via the chat box in Zoom. When you are brought into the main panel, please turn on your video. You will also be called to testify. You may unmute yourself. So before we begin, just my brief opening statement. As we turn the corner of 1 year point in the COVID pandemic, we will continue to search for answers while many, too many, continue to search for their unemployment benefits. The huge influx of unemployment claims is certainly a primary culprit in a system that was late in payment and seemed unresponsive to the needs of the people when they truly needed their benefits. But we must ask ourselves, at what point should the mechanisms of New Jersey's government have been able to accommodate the needs of its most vulnerable people? By the end of May 2020, 1 million residents had applied for unemployment benefits. In October, $18 billion in benefits had been paid out. By December, that number had slowed to $20 billion, yet thousands still remained without benefits. Our legislative offices have become ground zero for unemployment complaints, not because of our efforts, but because of the system that after 1 year still remains unresponsive and lost. Recently, legislative officers were told to submit the top 50 egregious UI claims, then not submit anything for 2 weeks while they handled those most egregious claims. My office submitted 28 claims. Only 1 case was returned as completed. Meanwhile, 34 additional constituents had to wait 2 weeks because we were not able to help them. In all, 500 cases were submitted by our Republican legislative offices. Less than 38% of these long-waiting priority cases were completed in 2 weeks. Unacceptable. Initially, many, including myself and Governor Murphy, questioned the use of a 60-year-old operating system called COBOL. It was suggested there were not enough with experience working with this system to handle the great influx of claims. Later, a spokesman for the New Jersey Department of Labor suggested that they did not lack trained staff to operate COBOL. So what is it? Although a system was old, 48% of systems in the country are considered legacy systems. Other states with older systems like Texas saw an average of 13,000 unemployment claims jump to 400,000 unemployment claims per week. They modified existing systems and managed. Closer to home, Rhode Island, which also uses COBOL, granted a smaller state, managed to pay claims quicker than most other states during the pandemic. For years, when I sought to increase transparency of government spending, I was told the state's computer systems could not handle the changes. There seems to be no problem with the state's computer system when it comes to taking out damn taxes. If COBOL was not the issue, then what? Hopefully, this meeting will be able to add to that discourse. Joining us this morning, initially, will be a panel of two Laura Bizzotti, who is a resident of Senator Corrado's district, and Chuck Durney, who's been having problems since May, who was invited by Assemblywoman Dunn. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, Lenora, you want to tell us a little bit about your story and then followed by Chuck?
Yes. First, I want to thank everybody on the community, special Senator Corrado, who helped me. She was there for me. My name is Leonora Bizzatti. I am a school bus driver. And of course, when pandemic happened and then the school were closed and we were out. For March, I want to thank the owner of the transportation that I work. Her name is Cheryl. She did pay us for March. We got paid for March. In April, we've been told we have to claim for unemployment insurance. I did claim it and wait months, no response. Calls were unreachable, no answers. And I wait for a couple of months. Everybody was saying, it takes a long time, but for everybody, it was difficult. Less than a year, I bought the house. We put all the saving in the house. I have 3 kids, bills, credit cards, everything. And I started, stressing myself. I was worried. We're gonna have, what is this? It's taking so long. So since April, I wait 5 months, no response, no phone calls, no emails until August. So one day I wake up in the morning, everything was closed. There was nowhere to go. I went straight to the police station.
Sorry, Lenora, do you have video? Could you turn that on if you do have it?
I'm so sorry.
Where
I
is
thought
the
I
video? Chuck, you as well.
I'm so sorry about that. So yeah, I wait 5 months. 5 months. It was a long time. I went straight to the police station when I had nowhere else to go. So I went there. They invited me to go to the Senator Corrado's office, which I want to thank her. I want to thank Debbie Andriani. She was there for me. She helped me. She opened the door for me. I went there, crying, telling my story, my situation. And that was Debbie there who helped me. She said, don't worry, just come down. We're going to help you. We're here for you. She asked me for all my information. I gave her all my information. She said, just go home. Don't wait here. Wait for my phone call. I'm going to call you. So I went home. I wait for next day. She called me. She contacted me. She said, I contact the unemployment. You're going to have a phone call. Just wait. So yeah, they called me. They asked for all my information. And I got the money after a week. Thanks to Senator Corrado, thanks to Debbie, they helped me. There's people out there who suffer, for me, it was 5 months, but there is other people who did not get any money. So this was very stressful. It was not easy. So thank God in September, the school were open. Of course, the hours are not the same. The hours have been reduced. We've been told we can collect partial. I was like, I am done with this. I couldn't go through that. I applied for another job. I have another part-time job now. I want to thank Luigi Tulipani, Bob Duval. They're working in a wing, custodial supervisor. They're supervisors in district. They hired me, which was very hard to find a job during pandemic. So I want to thank them. And now I have two part-time jobs. Daytime, I work as a school bus driver, and nighttime I work custodial. So this was my story. You know, I want to thank everyone. I was happy to be part of this, to share my story. I was not easy. So I hope everything, you know, that they will try to fix unemployment insurance, the issues that they have. So I can go on and on. And I want to thank one more time Debbie Adriani, the councilwoman. She was being contacting me every single week to see where I was. Do I needed any more help? She helped me with the food service and more.
Thank you. Thank you. Chuck, do you have your video on?
Thank you.
Chuck, are you on? There you are. And I just to the witnesses, because of the great number of witnesses that we have today, please keep your remarks concise and as short as you can, please. Thank you. Go ahead, Chuck.
Well, I'm going to first thank Assemblyperson woman Oria Dunn for all her help and her staff, Judith Lemus in particular. Had they not gotten on this case, I don't think that I would even have a payment at this point in time. I would just point out 3 areas that I think could use some improvement. When I initially applied, 2 employers plus the one I was employed by showed up on my form that I was doing online. I marked the portion of the form that these were not my employers. Eventually, I think that someone needs to double check that or check that, because even though I called numerous times and never got to anybody, I wrote numerous letters about that because I knew that once I start collecting, I was going to be overpaid. And so as it turned out, when I did not apply in the middle of June and stopped my claim, I received a call in July that they wanted to examine what I had done. And they called me on a Friday, spent about 2 hours on the phone going through week, very thorough, nice person, etc. And what I would just like to point out that after this woman told me, listen, I think you're going to owe about $2,300 or something like that. I said, I already knew I was going to owe some money, so fine. 5 days, the following Friday after that, I received what you call an invoice or a declaration that I had to pay that. So the one thing that is working very well is the repayment section, okay? So I think number one, the identity theft thing is what's really concerning. And that's what I tried to address, okay? The other thing that was happening with me was that I would receive a determination, and the date on the determination, and I'll just give you one example. When I received directions to file on 4/1, I received something back, but the problem is that it was dated 4/9 when I received it, or not, it was dated that it was mailed out on 4/9, and I got it on 4/27. So the link between the information that they're giving out to you to say you can apply and this is going to be your benefit, it was too late for me to apply each and every time because I was out of the period of being able. And so it was assumed that I had to reapply. Okay. So they're the 2 things that created a number of issues for me. And I did already pay back the information. I stopped the unemployment situation, but between the identity theft issue, which by the way, was never addressed, not even by the examiner, and the mailing links that I was getting something so much after the fact and then had to reapply, that was a little bit burdensome. But eventually, things seemed to work out. So I called many times without an answer. I wrote at least 2 or 3 letters to try to get this thing back on track. and certainly with the help of the Assemblywoman and her staff, they got this thing going in May.
Thank you, Mr. Durney. Senator O'Scanlan? Are you there? All right, we'll go to
Yeah,
Senator.
I am, Senator.
There you go.
Sorry, it's mute delay, which is something we all suffer from in these COVID days. Appreciate the opportunity to comment. My time is going to be a little limited today because I'm dealing with a family health issue. So I appreciate your inviting my comments up front. We're going to hear from a lot of folks today, a lot of heartbreaking stories. And while our labor commissioner and staff tried hard, it was obvious there was no recognition of the dramatic nature of our unemployment system's failure from the top. The administration failed to assess the scope of the problems, the dire life-threatening severity, the impact of the challenges people were facing. And as time has gone on, from month to excruciating month, it's become apparent that there is both a heartbreaking lack of empathy for the people, even to this day, being tortured by the system, or the will to do anything about it. To be clear, I'm not aiming most of my ire at the staff or even the commissioner of labor. Both the staff, it was a good group of people working hard, and the labor commissioner have tried and been responsive to me and to my staff, and I appreciate that. Well, I'm sure some blame will be aimed their way today. My focus is on the lack of vision and concern on the part of the administration. In regular interactions with the commissioner and staff at the department, it became clear that they were as frustrated with the system as was I and my staff. I understand early on, with the sudden crushing onslaught of claims, that there would be breakdowns and delays. But to this day, we still have folks who have been trying to collect for months, and we're still getting dozens of calls each week. And these are brutal, tearful interactions from people who can't feed their families or pay their bills. And for many, the reverberations will go on for years as these folks deal with repercussions of damaged credit that will impact their ability to qualify for mortgages and car loans and God knows what. The solution was obvious. Even with our outdated system, we've been given billions in aid from the federal government. We had thousands of idle workers, both within state government, just from MVC in early months of the crisis, and within the damaged private sector. Every effort should have been made to mobilize and train these people to help. The money was there to do this. It was the lack of will and the strategic foresight, management, and true empathy for the victims of the failure that caused this tragedy for so many victims of this system. My staff, after helping people numbering not dozens or hundreds, but thousands, along with Assemblyman Scharfenberger's staff, my running mate who's on today as well, that helped hundreds more from our district, is worn out physically and emotionally, all of us, from this tragedy, and deserve a special round of thanks for going above and beyond during this past year. And we'll get back to work again today and tomorrow and for months to come, undoubtedly. I look forward to hearing from all those folks that who have agreed to speak out today to help us put real faces to this nightmare and to working to resolve the issues for folks who still haven't been paid and to fixing the system so this can never happen again. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Testa? You're muted, Senator. Senator, you're muted.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. This is Senator Michael Testa, and I'd like to thank all of you for joining us this morning. When the first phone call was received at my legislative office in 2020, we never anticipated that an overwhelming Department of Labor debacle was about to occur. As the unemployment system crashed due to an unsustainable flood of new applications, the people of New Jersey were left standing alone without direction on how to provide for their families and found themselves in a sudden, unexpected wave of helplessness, with some of our residents and constituents even calling with suicidal thoughts. Families began to call their district legislative offices, including mine, asking if we had a better phone number to the Department of Labor. Since we did not have a different phone number, we were asked to help fix their unemployment problems because they simply were not getting processed in a timely fashion. Starting the last week of March 2020, now over a year ago, the average number of daily calls were about 3 to 4 per day. Within 1 week, that daily number increased to 12 to 15 per day. By the end of April 2020, that number had jumped to nearly 100 calls per day. As the state continued to be shut down, the number of people who needed unemployment continued to escalate weekly. All of our legislative offices became the go-to phone number and email address to get help to fix unemployment claim problems. Now, 1 year later, many of the same problems still exist. People contact our legislative offices because we are the first live person that they have been able to talk to and to feel like someone cares about their problem, that they have no money to feed their family, pay their bills, and are afraid of losing their housing. 1 year later, there is still a huge backlog of unemployment claims that have not been processed for 5, 6, 7, even 12 months since the original claim was filed. 1 year later, there are people having their car repossessed because they couldn't make their car loan payment. 1 year later, there are families that have lost their health care coverage because their job was lost and or their employer closed the business, like approximately 1/3 of all small businesses have closed or will be closing in the future. 1 year later, people are still being threatened with eviction because they can't pay their rent. 1 year later, people are still dependent on food pantries because they don't have their previous income to simply feed their families and put food on the table. 1 year later, people are embarrassed that they must borrow money from parents, friends, or family. 1 year later, people are still struggling to pay their utility bills to keep the heat and lights on and soon to be air conditioning. 1 year later, people have lost faith that they will get every last dime owed to them. 1 year later, people have lost faith in their government and they have lost faith in New Jersey. While New Jersey claims we are able to assist approximately 75% of all unemployment claims quickly, 25% of families, that's 1 in 4, are stuck in limbo without many avenues to turn to for relief. New Jersey must do better, period, full stop. It's up to us to listen to the testimony of residents in need, experts in the field, and push for the Department of Labor to get back into their offices working for the people of the Garden State. We truly need a stronger and fairer New Jersey. In the last year, we have learned we are not stronger and fairer. We are now weaker and poorer. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Testa. Senator Corrado?
And I want to thank the 2 witnesses that are on right now and all of the witnesses that are going to come and speak today. We asked Leonora to come and be a part of this today because she represents one of the few success stories that we actually had in the district. And unfortunately, those success stories are far and few between. She's a hardworking mom with 3 young children, and she did everything right. She did everything that she was asked to, and was so desperate that she turned to the police department for help. And I'm so glad that they sent her to us and we were able to help her. She's not the first person they sent, but our doors have been open the entire time during the pandemic. We've kept in touch with her and she's doing well and we're glad, but it shouldn't be this hard. Like every legislator on this Zoom today, since the pandemic started, we have fielded thousands and thousands of calls from people seeking help with their unemployment claims. That's been done by phone call, by email, by Facebook messaging, and we've even had people come to our homes because they didn't know where else to go. We know that the Department of Labor does not answer their phone and does not return emails. People have been struggling for over a year to make ends meet without a paycheck. A year into the pandemic, the Department of Labor still has a severe communication breakdown with out-of-work New Jerseyans and the legislative staffs that are advocating on their behalf. People think I am making it up when I tell them I literally don't have a phone number or a contact person at a State Department to call and advocate on their behalf. We've been resorted to email, filling out spreadsheets, and now we get to fill out a program that the Department of Labor is letting us use. We get a return email telling us to contact the constituent, tell the constituent what needs to be done on their claim so they can respond back to the Department of Labor. It makes no sense. This is a bipartisan problem that's been going on for over a year. And since the beginning of the shutdowns, Senator Weinberg and I have worked together urging the Department of Labor to make changes to improve their responsiveness to desperate residents who have lost their jobs through no fault of their own. The ongoing situation is a travesty. This far into the pandemic, hardworking New Jersey residents can't get their checks, can't get answers, and cannot even speak with the people who are supposed to help them. It's so bad that in order to get answers from the Department of Labor, I was forced to file OPRA requests. One request, they've asked for numerous extensions and still haven't gotten an answer to me on a very simple question about who they're using for their call center. On the second request, they have completely ignored me. It should never get to this point, and quite honestly, it's unacceptable, but it speaks volumes to the lack of accountability and the lack of transparency, not only with the Department of Labor, but with this administration, who has done nothing to make this situation any better a full year into the pandemic. Quite honestly, it's not acceptable. We'll continue to advocate on behalf of all our constituents. They deserve better. And I hope the governor and the administration are listening, because these are the people you are letting down every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Corrado. Senator Shapisi, before I go to you, I want to go to Assemblywoman Dunn because she had invited Mr. Durney here. Assemblywoman Dunn.
Thank you, Senator Panaccio. And I do want to thank Mr. Durney for your insightful testimony and really giving us some concrete ways to go after this. You're the consumer, which in turn, you've become the expert on what's needed here to improve this system. As you know, I'm the representative for District 25, which encompasses Morris County. Within Randolph, a town of mine, we do have the Department of Labor one-stop shop, which I went to a couple weeks ago. It is a ghost town. It's still shut down. I was talking to the security guards and they told me dozens of folks come every day simply to be turned away because it's their last resort. They can't get through by phone. They can't get through by email. I don't want to keep belaboring this as we're hearing it's the same story. Worse though, what we saw is when I did get in, that's the way it was prior to this. If you needed help with your unemployment and you went to this one stop, you were sent to a relic of a phone to again, not get through. So this isn't something that hasn't been brewing for a long time. It's just that the pandemic has brought it to the fore, which I hope that means this is a turning point for real systemic change. There was never a person to talk to. And we talk about we live in the virtual world and maybe that's the way we should move to, fine. But then there should be someone at the end of the line, someone to respond to. We know that the governor has asked for a pittance in his budget in terms of what's really needed to bring this agency into the modern day world. So again, Chuck, I thank you so much for taking the time and your input. And I look forward, I know I have another constituent coming on a future panel. But again, like the Senator Corrado said, we are going to stay here for you. We're going to continue to advocate for you because that's our role. And I know on occasion I'm to intervene to make sure that the right hand is speaking to the left, but this is beyond the pale. We have become an extension of an executive agency, which is, and just think of that, we are small staffs, maybe 3 at tops, and we're doing the work of a monolith of an agency. Where are they? What are they doing? So we're going to find out today, and I really look forward to hearing more of your expert testimony. Thank you.
You.
Assemblywoman Dunn. Senator Shapisi.
Thank you, Senator Panaccio. And I'm going to keep my comments brief because they echo all of my colleagues. First off, I have to thank my staff. With no additional remuneration, no additional compensation themselves, My staff, which is mostly part-time, has stepped up to the plate for an entire year and worked full-time on behalf of the state of New Jersey as an extension of an executive branch for no other reason other than they wanted to help the residents that we represent. And our offices get bombarded daily. People sobbing their hearts out to us. People who have lived and worked in New Jersey their entire lives, built businesses, have never been reliant upon government for anything, who are at wit's end, who have no point of contact, who get no replies other than through our district offices. And as Senator Corrado said, people are getting creative out of their desperation. It's through Facebook, it's through personal emails, it is through coming to homes, it's coming to our offices. It's people who literally have no idea what else to do. And the one and only time in their entire lives, after paying into a system, in some instances 40, 50 years, and it's one time that they need to rely upon a system, and the system is so broken that there are no options for them. We have people who have been attempting to get paid since last March. That's unconscionable. They can't believe that we as senators and assembly members in the state do not have a direct phone number ourselves. And they beg us, please, give us a secret number. As we go, we don't even have access. And it's really surreal seeing, with the budgets that we have, with the borrowings that have taken place, with the quote unquote rounding errors of tens of millions of dollars that goes out daily for everything from golf courses to a park to this to that, that we have not utilized any of that excess cash to be able to upgrade and to ensure that people who need our help the most are being taken care of. People are, literally every day trying to choose between whether or not they pay their mortgage or buy food for their homes. We need to stop this. It was a broken system prior to this. This just, amplified how broken the system is. And yes, we understand that we're working with some antiquated systems and whether or not it's DMV, whether or not it's, unemployment, but, now we've got to create solutions to it. And to be a year into it with the technology that is available to our state and still not have appropriate solutions is wrong. So whatever we can do collectively to try to make this smoother for the people we represent going forward, we all have to do it. It's surreal that in 2021, people who haven't received a payment in a year are relying upon essentially a robocall to come into their phone, and God forbid they don't pick it up. They have no recourse and they've got to start afresh. So I'm very happy that we're holding these hearings for Lenora, for Chuck. Our hearts are with you. We've been helping many people such as yourselves, and we will continue to do so until every person who has earned their claim receives it. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Assemblyman Schaffenberg.
Yes, thank you, Senator Joe, and thank you for putting this together and certainly inviting me and all of my colleagues. Everything has been pretty much said, so I will keep this brief, but I will say that this whole situation has consumed my office for now it's over a year. And I think the most distressing part for us is that there hasn't been any measurable improvement in the system. We seem to be getting the same complaints. Somebody mentioned the movie Groundhog Day. I think we're stuck right in that type of situation where we have the same types of things over and over again, nothing's getting resolved. And to add insult to injury, now the folks are upset, they've lost their job. We've had calls from people who've never had unemployment, never had to deal with the unemployment system in their entire careers, who are now thrust into this because of a situation created by the government. They created this hard line lockdown. which resulted in many people losing their jobs overnight. So now they're looking for help from the government. They make a call, they'll get a recording that you have to speak to a representative. Well, they'll make a call over and over again to get to that representative, only to get the same message. So they get caught in this circular trap where they can't get any resolution. They'll even get a notice that the money is in their account and somehow they cannot access it. And the only recourse then is to go to our offices here. Now, our offices, as Senator Shapisi pointed out, are small. They're overwhelmed with the work that they have to do normally, and now they're taking on the burden of becoming de facto Department of Labor employees. And we do it happily. We work 7 days a week. We've worked Saturdays and Sundays with my staff, going over particular claims and looking for a solution. But we can't be the answer. Department of Labor has to get their act together. I've introduced legislation that would do an audit of the Department of Labor to see where the shortcomings are. We could write a book on that.
Assemblyman, you froze? Okay. Before we call up the next panel,
But that's long term. For the immediate thing, we have to step it up. I don't know if they need, what? Senator?
yeah, your video is going in and out. You're freezing on us. Go ahead, Assemblyman.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to wrap up. I have we have two witnesses here from the office who are great witnesses. They have a great story. Brittany has 4 kids under 7 and has been dealing with this for months. And Vince also has a couple of kids. So these are real people. And for every person that we get resolved, there's another 2 or 3 that haven't been. And these are families who are struggling and need resolution. So it's tragic that the state hasn't stepped up and resolved this. They have a 50-year-old computer system that they're using that I learned in high school. So there's got to be some improvement somewhere along the line, and we have to really pressure the Department of Labor to come up with a workable solution now, not 2 years from now. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Before we call up the next panel, I just want to echo some of the comments that my colleagues have made. One of the most wrenching, heartbreaking stories was a woman that was down to her last $20. She had already lost her car, lost her apartment. She needed that $20 in order for her to pay for her phone. Why? Because she was waiting for that phone call from the Department of Labor. I don't know if that phone call ever came. She's one of probably 1,000 that this office, my office, tried to help. We would be remiss if we didn't say that this was a failure of government at all levels. The legislature is charged with oversight, with due diligence on the various administrative departments, and we failed because we've never had that committee meeting to determine whether unemployment was handled correctly, or the nursing home issues, or business failures and things like that. So that still hangs out there. We still offer that olive branch to our Democrat colleagues, wanting to do that oversight committee, just like they did for Bridgegate when nobody was killed, okay, with subpoena power. That way we could have some of these answers. Perhaps if we got those answers sooner rather than later, we wouldn't have people waiting 1 year for their benefits. We did invite the Commissioner of Labor to attend. As you can see, he will not be attending today, not because we did not ask. And we are not here today to bash and to criticize the efforts that the Department of Labor did. There's a lot of good, hardworking people there. But I'm reminded in 1962, the Mets had a lot of good, hardworking players on the field, and they managed to lose 120 games. So sometimes it's the product and the way you deliver that product that should be scrutinized, and we should be addressing it, and we should try. We have to do better. Okay, next up, as far as thank you for the 2 previous panelists. I'm sorry, the witnesses. We are going to be bringing up Beth Fordley. She was a former Department of Labor employee. We're bringing up Zach Herman. He's a research analyst in the Employment, Labor, and Retirement Program at the National Conference of State Legislators, and Bill Henshaw, the CEO of Cobalt Cowboys. I'm sort of interested to see what he has to say about the system that we're using now. Okay, why don't we just take in that order? Beth, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay.
You have to unmute
Beth,
that.
you're on mute.
Can you You, there we go. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you again.
Good morning, all. My name is Beth Fordley. I want to thank Senator Testa for allowing me to provide testimony this morning in regards to unemployment system in New Jersey. I worked for the Vineland One Stop Center for more than 5 years before being laid off. As someone that has been on unemployment and worked for unemployment, I can attest of having values of clerks, actual in-person clerks at the agency. The clerks are most invaluable. I can't attest more than having to help someone undo an email password reset, fixing issues as password email, I'm so sorry, email passwords, filing a claim, or answering any question regarding to qualifying for unemployment. During my time with the agency, I was able to solve a lot of those issues that are difficult to solve over the phone, such as having a claimant provide you with documents, letters, and provide information that is required. Many of these issues are also responsible for others not being able to make contact with the agent because the phone lines are jammed by issues that can be easily resolved by providing actual information to actual live agents. They are able to provide needs for their families, which is never more important than now. Furthermore, the website provides information that is inaccurate, sending people on a wild goose chase to find live help instead of being rerouted to the phone or the internet. Potential claimants have to travel sometimes miles out of their way just to see that an agency is there to provide them help. In conclusion, claimants need access to live agents to solve these multitude of claims. Computers cannot assist everyone, and sometimes computers can be wrong. Human actuality needs to be investigated to the issues that are nearly impossible to solve over a phone or an internet connection. Some of our claimants do not have access to the internet or a phone. In addition, the state and country as a whole have had a greater influx of unemployment that has ever been before. A phone bank system cannot handle the volume of calls. I have people to this day asking if I have a connection to anyone that can help them with their temporary disability or to their unemployment. I simply don't have it. I grieve for these people because they are my friends and they are my family. Without a live agent sitting in front of you, it seems like the claim takes longer to process and less information is being shared. In my opinion, as a former UI clerk, that the government must open one-stops. Too many people are relying on the unemployment system as they're promised that they would be given this information and payments on unemployment as a result of COVID. We will never fully eradicate this virus, but soon people will get back to work and back to surviving financially. The sooner that the unemployment system will get a break, live agents are a must. I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you, Beth. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Zach, you're next. You're up.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Panaccio. So I work for the National Conference of State Legislatures. We are a nonpartisan, unbiased organization that works for you, the legislators, and I specialize in unemployment insurance. I'm going to give a brief overview of what we've been tracking in terms of how states have expanded their administrative capacity to respond to the truly historic amount of claims that we've seen over the past year. Just as an example, in early 2019, the average claim was hovering around 200 or 3,000 new claims nationally. And then in May, it skyrocketed to 16 million initial claims in the first week nationally. So truly every system has been overwhelmed beyond compare. In general, we've seen about 6 buckets that states have been using to expand their administrative capacity to help manage this overwhelming amount of new claims, new weekly claims. So the first one has been increased staffing. This can take a few different forms. Many departments have significantly increased their hiring of program staff. There was money both in FERCA and in the CARES Act to help accommodate that increased hiring. And that's both program and administrative staff. Then states have also reallocated staff from other departments and programs to work on processing claims. This was at its height during the lockdowns when a lot of state staff were furloughed. Department of Labor and Workforce Program staff were then reallocated to unemployment offices to help answer questions and process claims. And then there also was contracting out with call centers and third-party vendors like Maximus to help sort of triage calls coming in so that basic questions about how to apply and things like that could go to call centers, and then questions about specific things related to your case, or if you needed a specific thing changed on your case, would go to clerks and case managers in the Department of Labor. Then there's also been, especially in the beginning, a lot of staggering of when people can apply. Almost every state has staggered application days in some way, shape, or form. So this could be staggering based on social security number, birthday, first name, last name, and basically limiting what day you can actually send in your applications so that the system doesn't get nearly as overwhelmed. Again, contracting with call centers, then upgrading technology systems. This is ramping up sort of coming into 2021. These technological upgrades can be everything from full system overhauls of servers and computer systems like in New Mexico to smaller upgrades like introducing virtual chat, upgrading websites, or in the example of North Carolina and a couple of other states, setting in application tracking systems for the applicants so they can see where their application is in the process. And then also, if there's an issue with their application, they can go into it and see what it is. So if they typed their social security number wrong, they can go in and fix that social security number. There's also been an increase in implementing and advertising short-time compensation programs or work-share programs. New Jersey is one of the 26 states that has a work-share program, and this reduces claim volume because it diverts applicants to a separate program within the unemployment insurance office. Short-time compensation is a fairly new program coming out of 2012 in which businesses can apply for the benefit. If they then qualify, they select a certain amount of staff and reduce those staff hours between 10 and 60%. Those staff remain on the payroll working those reduced hours and then receive a pro rata portion of unemployment to cover some of the lost wages from those hour reductions. This is meant to reduce people who are getting full unemployment and regular benefits, and instead diverting them to a new office, keeping them on employment rolls. Employers get to keep their employees. Then other sort of miscellaneous changes that we've seen sort of in a couple of states, expanding call center hours generally. So that could be either through their contracting with call centers or their own individual staff, expanding the call centers to 24/7, uploading videos on how to apply, publishing various frequently asked questions related to applications, relating to appeals, relating to flowcharts on how you're going to apply for what. So this could be like, you didn't qualify for regular benefits, now you have to apply for PUA, those sorts of things. Also requiring employers to file partial claims on behalf of the employees. So if the employer, this is especially happened in Georgia, where employers, after they laid off an employee or furloughed an employee, would have to partially file claims for that employee related to unemployment. Then also lots of virtual town halls and Facebook Live events to answer some of these questions and address concerns. And with that, I'm happy to take any other questions at the end. Thank you, Chairman Panaccio and the rest of the committee.
Mr. Herman, you will have questions, but before we do, we're going to hear from Mr. Hinshaw. Bill?
Am I on? I'm sorry.
Yeah, raise your volume.
Is that better?
Not yet.
You can't hear me?
We can hear you, but you're very soft. We need you to put your volume up if possible.
Okay. How's that?
Doesn't appear to be any better.
Oh. That's strange. See, basically on my desktop,
A little, it's a little bit better, but you have to increase that volume. Keep going.
let me do the volume here.
Or maybe you just get closer to the unit. Are you on a laptop?
I'm on a laptop, but I'm also on my
Okay.
iPhone, so my laptop doesn't have.
Get a little
very good
closer to the
volume.
laptop. That seems to be helping. Go ahead.
Is that any better or not?
Yeah.
I'm trying to get to my volume. Where is my volume at here on the screen? I got mute.
Just speak louder. We'll do it the good old fashioned way. Raise your voice. Nope, that's just the opposite.
You're
Okay.
you're on mute, Bill.
Well, you're loud and clear, but you can't hear me. Is that what you're saying?
I think you need to get closer to the microphone is what I think.
Yeah,
Is this any better?
good. And just raise your voice a little bit. That'll work. Closer.
Okay,
and
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Is that loud enough?
That's good. Thank you.
Okay. Basically, I have not been personally involved in the unemployment claims issues. I was on site last year working on another problem for the Office of IT, in which Cobalt Cowboys came in on a Saturday and left on Monday. But basically, what I have seen is, and based on my interviews, because of the unemployment issue with New Jersey, we have had over 45 interviews with media. Some of those were to be published on the internet. Some were podcasts. We've been on television, radio to address this. During those interviews, I have pushed back that it was a COBOL problem. I have pushed back on that because it's not a COBOL problem. In fact, one of my interviews with the New York Times was supposed to run the interview, but they emailed back saying, Bill, we will not go forward with your interview because the state of New Jersey emailed us that it was not a COBOL problem and they no longer need a COBOL people.
Bill, if you don't mind, before you continue, if you could introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what it is that you do and why it'll put your testimony in context for us. It would be really helpful. Thank you, Bill.
I apologize. My name is Bill Henshaw. I'm the CEO and founder of Cobalt Cowboys. We have over 500 independent consultants who resolve organizational issues or to provide ongoing support when they lose people. We are based basically in North Texas, but have clients all over the world. And our role is to go in and support issues either with people I have left or they got operational problems. Like when I was called in last year to the state of New Jersey, they could not process transactions for a particular application. They called me Friday. I was there Saturday morning. I left Monday morning. The issue had been resolved. So what we do is we solve problems. I must say that I have been very puzzled with the fact it's been a whole year and this problem still exists. I've been very puzzled about that because with the proper funding and people, it should have been corrected a long time ago. My recommendation is to look at modernization. Based on what I have read, you're dealing with 1985-year-old hardware, the mainframes, and they have not been upgraded to what we have available today. So the part of the modernization is to get a good up the speed processor, the mainframe. And those are so powerful today. In fact, I tell all of my interviews, if you're dealing with any 1985-year-old hardware and 1985-year-old COBOL, it's like, and you go to the current mainframes, current COBOL, it's like jumping off of a bicycle and hopping on the back of a Harley Davidson. That's the improvements in the last, since 1985. And also I have an issue with, and it's a personal issue. Every article I read talks about COBOL, 1960-year-old language. That's true. It was introduced in 1960, but it's been constantly and continually enhanced by IBM, both their mainframes and their COBOL. It's unbelievable what we can do now on the mainframes. One of my recommendations is if you choose not to modernize, take a look at moving to the cloud. The cloud will keep you up to speed, up to date on hardware and operating systems, and then take a full advantage of that. Plus, you have very good ROI on that because they only charge you for the time you use on their computers, and they got security out there. So one of my recommendations is if you decide to continue with COBOL and mainframes, which I recommend you do, then modernize or move into the cloud. What I have seen on the front end, it's been reported that 27 states processing unemployment claims, their websites crashed, including Texas, by the way. So this was not unique to the state of New Jersey. Was a little bit unique to me and a puzzlement. Why is it has been a year and the problem has not been resolved. The problem on the front end deals with two things: capacity, and that is how many phone lines you have and how many users can go into the website at one time. That's one problem. The other problem is it takes so long to enter the personal data and the employment data. So you got people out there just occupying time sensitive out there, taking more time than is normal. So you might want to take a look at, is there any way we can reduce the amount of data that has to be entered? Because it takes a long time for personal information and employment information. If there was a way you could fast track that by requiring less information, that would really speed it up. I do believe that on the front end, they did expand their capacity. I do believe that, because all at once, all the noise about the state of New Jersey and unemployment went to the back pages. So I think the front end was doing something. But again, I can't believe it's been a year, and I'm now hearing that it hasn't been fixed. With people and funding, it should have been fixed, quickly. A whole year, that's a lifetime. It really is. I just can't. I'm sorry for the people it's impacted. I really am, but I'm also puzzled by what didn't happen. Why wasn't this fixed? I mean, it's God, I can't believe the heartbreak and problem these people are having. Here we are in Texas. We're not having these issues that I'm aware of. Plus, I never hear about it. But New Jersey, you were one of my first clients in New Jersey. Yeah.
Bill, if you don't mind, this is Senator Michael Testa. I just have a couple questions for you.
Sure.
Because it appears that your testimony is coming to a close. I hope I'm not interrupting. Am I correct on that?
Do it now.
Am I correct that it appears your testimony sort of is coming to a close? I want to ask you a couple questions on some of the things that you've said already, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Governor Murphy has indicated that it was a waste of resources to update the COBOL-based system here in New Jersey. Just to be clear about what your testimony is, you disagree with that, correct?
What I say is you need to replace the mainframe you currently have, which is a 1985 model. Go with the current day IBM mainframes, which are unbelievably fast. And also go with COBOL, the later versions of COBOL, which go into the cloud, some other things. It's, like I said before, it's like hopping off a bicycle and jumping onto a Harley Davidson. The speed is there. But it takes funding and manpower to make that happen. Now, if you modernize and just replace the hardware and go with the latest versions of COBOL, you can basically, all you have to do is recompile all your COBOL programs to take advantage of the speed. That's all you have to do.
So Bill, so it appears that you're intimately familiar with the system that we have in place currently in the state of New Jersey. Is that correct?
I'm not familiar with your system at all. What I would recommend is to have a very quick study done on a fast path to get this improved as fast as you can. It may not be the long range solution, but at least get in a short range solution so that you can handle these claims. I just can't. I said I'm puzzled. I just can't believe they're not processing. We deal with organizations around the world on mainframes and COBOL, and they process billions of transactions a day. And there's no problem with that. In fact, more and more organizations are going back to the mainframe for the modernization.
So Mr. Hinshaw, the Department of Labor has stated that it's going to take approximately $200 million to modernize our system. The Murphy administration is appropriating $7.5 million. Is that enough to do a major fix, or at least get New Jersey on the pathway to having a better, more streamlined system for unemployment?
I have to give you a gut feel because I don't know the scope of what's involved. But I would say that at least 10 million would be a head start, but you're looking more like 25 million, just a ballpark guess. I mean, I can't give you a good answer on that, except 7.5 is not very much. Very, very low ball.
And Mr. Hinshaw, this is my last question. The Murphy administration has blamed much of these delays on the federal system, and that's why they're stating that it would be a waste of resources to update our state system. What are your thoughts on that?
Basically, from my experience, I've been contacted by several people out of Washington in the congressional area. Basically, they approved the funding, but that funding is not used for its purpose. They moved the IT funding elsewhere, and so these IT organizations that would like to get modern and fix the problems, the funding disappears. That's what I've been hearing. So if you can get the funding and we can do a study, we need to move fast. I mean, it breaks my heart almost to hear these stories which are unnecessary stories. I have to say that they should have been addressed a long time ago. It's been a year.
Thank you, Mr. Hinshaw. That's all I have. Thank you. That was very enlightening for me.
Okay, I have an appointment elsewhere. Do I need to be back on later, or?
Can you stay on for 5 more minutes?
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Can you stay on for a few more minutes?
Oh, sure. Be happy to.
Yeah, and just I have a few questions, and then we'll ask the other legislators if they have any questions. Just for a layman, just explain to us the difference between the COBOL system, keeping that system in place, modernizing it, or going on to a cloud system. Is one faster than the other? And you had mentioned a study, and
okay,
$25 million.
Let's talk about COBOL first, okay? As IBM has kept their mainframes evergreen, current, more powerful, they've also made COBOL more powerful. So when you combine those two, the improvements and enhancements to both the mainframe and the COBOL, it's unbelievable. COBOL can now run concurrently with new technology like Java. It has unparalleled security. It can interface with the internet, i.e., and also the cloud. It's the state-of-the-art mainframes that actually keep ahead of the new technology. So that's on that side. The real advantage of going to the cloud is you don't have to buy the hardware or rent the hardware and keep it on site. You have that hardware and that maintenance support within the cloud providers, whether it be Amazon, IBM, but your hardware is located elsewhere, and you're just paying for the time that you use it. So they are constantly keeping their mainframes up to date, keeping their software up to date. So you have the advantages of having the latest mainframe and software out in the cloud. On the state side, they would have to maintain the application code, the code to process unemployment claims. They'd have to maintain that. That would not be done in the cloud. That would be done on site at the state, wherever that is.
As an emergency measure, Bill, could you have done both? Could you have, with the overload of claims, could you have contracted with the cloud until those claims were taken care of, helping the system that you have?
The state would have a contract with the cloud provider, and they would go through all of these issues about security, how to upload changes, how to test changes. All of that would be done on the cloud. The state would be the driver, though. The state would be in control of that. It's just that they are moving their processing from a building within the state to hardware someplace else. It may be, I don't know, in Texas for all I know, but through the internet, you're looking at your own mainframe, and you're only paying for the time that you use. Basically, that's what it amounts to. And you don't need the personnel at the state to maintain the hardware or to maintain the operating systems. That's all done by the cloud people.
Okay.
So it's one of those things that should be analyzed and compared. Is that the best ROI on our money, in-house or in the cloud? As far as a study goes, it's just a matter of going in and defining what your current operation is and what the faults are, what changes need to be made. It's just a study, but it's a recommendation on how to move forward with either modernization, move into the cloud, changes on the front end. But it has. I'm surprised there's not a study that has been done already. It's a puzzlement to me.
Stay right there. Mr. Harmon, I got a question that maybe you can answer. Did other states contract with the Amazon services or the cloud in order to help them alleviate the large influx of unemployment claims?
I don't know if they do it on unemployment. They probably do, but they do.
Bill, we're asking Mr. Harmon this question.
More of the low volume applications.
All right, just stay right there. Hold on. Mr. Harmon, go ahead.
So unfortunately, I don't have that direct data. The state that I do know did that is Rhode Island, but I'm unaware of any other states.
I can't hear you.
By the way, Mr. Harmon, were other states opened on weekends and holidays? Okay. Do you know if New Jersey was any, Beth? Is she still on, Beth?
So New Jersey did not look like they expanded their hours for March.
So New Jersey did not expand their hours. Other states did.
Yes, so several states expanded both their call center hours as well as expanding overtime for their staff in general and hiring more staff to cover more slots in those normal working hours.
Basically Monday through Friday, 9 to 5?
Correct. So expanding it past to like 24/7, even just 7 to 7, those sort of expanded hours.
Well, that explains a lot. Okay, Senator Corrado. No questions?
No questions, thank you.
Is Senator Shapisi on? No questions. Senator, Assemblyman Schaffenberger.
Yes, thank you. For Mr. Hinshaw, are you familiar enough with the New Jersey system to be able to say how long an overhaul would take? Is it months, years, 10 years? How long would it take to get our system, I guess, based on your knowledge of it, in overhaul?
Basically, I have no knowledge of your system. I don't know if it was a vendor provided package or if it was done in-house. I can't answer that question.
Okay.
The thing I would address first is the front end to increase its capacity. The COBOL and the mainframe, even though they are old and need to be replaced, are still very powerful. Those systems what you're running on the day from 1985 in COBOL. For a bank, it processes everything they do. Checking account, savings accounts, installment loan, commercial loan, general ledger, ATMs, tellers. It's they process on one box on COBOL, and they don't have these issues. And I think the bottleneck needs to be examined on the front end. But I do believe that the front end has been increased to have more capacity. I think that has happened. No, I wish I could give you an answer. I
Okay.
really, but a study would tell us that, but I
Okay.
can't give you an answer.
Thank you.
Senator Panaccio, if I could just real quick, Declan here. Really appreciate this testimony. It is stunning, actually. So I realize that you're not intimately familiar with New Jersey's system, but it seems to me that you have a pretty good idea what we have in place. And I guess what I need to know is the $25 million you mentioned, is that the maximum amount you can imagine it would take to fairly quickly update our system and stop what you say are needless sad stories? Is that the top end number you can imagine? We're hearing 200 million. Can you imagine it possibly costing 200 million?
No, it could cost more than the 25, definitely. 200 million. Are we talking about just the unemployment claims, right? We're not talking about the whole.
Well, look, New Jersey, all New Jersey systems are a disaster, but no, we're talking about just the UI, just the Labor Department systems.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, because I was called in January of 2020 to fix a Y2K problem. That happened 20 years later. So yeah, that's the systems are old. They need to be modernized. But I would not tear out everything and start over again, definitely. But I think somewhere, if I had to give a ballpark figure, max high, 50 or 60 million, if I had to give a ballpark without knowledge. Yeah.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, we're asking you to guess. And about how long at the outside would you say it would take to do that?
On the back
I
end,
think Vince is coming up in the next group.
Jerry, if you could mute.
okay, on the back end, that would be pretty quick if you modernize. You're bringing in new hardware, and you're getting the latest upgrades of the COBOL software, and just a matter of recompiling everything. So that would be a quick fix. Probably 2 or 3 months max at the most, if that much. If you go into the cloud, then you got work on the contracts and so forth. But you should be able to get to the cloud to get to that same hardware and same COBOL compilers within the 2 to 3 month period. So I'm saying a 2 to 3 month period would get the back end resolved.
Okay. So
On the
2 to
front
3
end, I have
months,
no idea.
2 to 3 months at most, and 50 to 60 million at most. That is stunning. And I really appreciate it.
It's not for the 50 or 60 million. Okay. I was talking about also the front end and some other things going on. But just on the mainframe side, the back end side, 25 million should be ample.
Okay. Thank you. I
On the back
understand.
end side.
Okay.
I can't.
I appreciate it.
The front end
Thank
side.
you.
Thank you. Thanks, Senator. I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Hinshaw, I have a question about the point of origination for a claim. You addressed it a little bit, how it can be very labor intensive. And I enjoyed listening to Ms. Fordley's testimony, and she talked about, the need for live agents, and that that's still very critical. But how do we kind of reconcile this, right? How is there a way? What do you see as an upgrade in terms of really streamlining that initial point? I just met a waitress yesterday that she's back to work, but a single mom, she gave up on her claim. And it just at a happenstance, I met her and I said, please call my office tomorrow. Don't give up. And you wonder how many of these folks are giving up, but they put in their claim and it just falls from there. So do you have some recommendations for streamlining that beginning process?
Yeah, well, to me, there are 2 issues. One is the data entry, the amount of time it takes is to enter both the personal and employment data. I have not seen those forms, but I can imagine there's a lot of data that has to be captured, and that just takes time. And if you're dealing on a website competing with other people, that only delays that process. So my first point would be is take a look at the data form to see what you can get rid of to get less data, what we call a fast path. The faster you can get in there. The other side is the capacity side. How many telephone lines? How many people can concurrently access a website? I mean, those need to be expanded. And I think most states where they had website failures, the 27 on day one, their first action was the bottleneck on the front end, and they addressed that quickly. You can easily expand the websites to have more capacity. That's just a part of the website. So I would address those two issues: a fast path on the data to reduce the amount of data entered and to increase the capacity on the website. The mainframe can handle that capacity. It can, it's unbelievable what it can handle. Billions of transactions a day. So it's and I said before, the mainframe and COBOL you're currently using has been used in banks for years to process all their work within a window. It's unbelievable. I can't believe I'm puzzled. I keep saying puzzled because I'm totally puzzled why this hasn't been fixed. It's
And Mr. Hinshaw, thank you for that recommendation about the fast path. I just, what we also heard was we might have made a breakthrough with a claimant only for there to be a disruption months later, and then they can't get back in. So there's a lack of dexterity in the system, missing a field or not being able to have that nuanced understanding, which I guess is what Ms. Fordley said really is at the end of the day needs to be resolved by a human being. But tell me, is there something there that we could also address in that rigid system seems to be holding people back?
Yeah, I would think that on the website itself that you need to take a look at the validation process. What has to be entered? What is there missing fields? Catch that at the initial data capture site. There must be missing fields if they have to come back in later. But also have a way to be able to pull up their original work quickly, make those changes, and put it back in the system. So that part of it is going to take a look at the actual website code to see what needs to be done there. I don't know if there's anything to be done on the back end. I don't know how long that's been running, maybe years. So there may not be a problem on the back end. I just don't know. But definitely the front end, the websites really have to be analyzed. They are newer than the back end software is, and I'm sure there's things that we can do, or you all can do, to improve that process and eliminate all these failures. Makes a grown man in Texas want to cry, to be honest about it. But anyway, that's who we are in Texas. Well, I've been in this business 60 years. I've never heard anything like this in my life. So
Me neither.
which shows you how old I am. But I started when I was 4 years old. So, so anyway.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Senator Corrado, I understand you have a question?
Yeah, very briefly, Mr. Hinshaw, thank you for your testimony. I just want you to know that the Department of Labor in the beginning of the pandemic, well over a year ago, put out a call for COBOL programmers. We had dozens of companies in our district reach out to help, and not one offer of help was accepted from our district. So I don't know if they ever, utilized the knowledge that we had throughout the state of New Jersey from the other programmers to assist them. So that's just something I wanted to point out. And Mr. Herman, we certainly know this was a global pandemic, and other states, throughout New Jersey, throughout the country, we're also faced with the onslaught of unemployment. But it certainly seems like whether they were furloughed or not, employees came back to work much more quickly, and just seems like other states made so many more accommodations, whether it was the timeframes, the virtual meetings with constituents, or returning emails. New Jersey seems to be lacking compared to some of the other examples that you cited.
Yes, it appears so. the other states may have had, I want to be not nice about this if I can. They had better design software, But each state's different, but the fact that all at once, all the states that had these problems, the issue went away for them. It's just that
Correct.
I was puzzled to hear that New Jersey's had these issues. I mean,
We're
I
still
haven't heard that.
puzzled.
Texas, I know, solved their problems quickly, but
And Mr. Herman, that's what I was asking you. Other states did a much better job than we did.
Correct. So New Jersey is not by any means at the bottom of the list. So the bottom of the list in terms of program performance is currently Hawaii, which only is getting 38% of their claims out every 2 to 4 weeks. New Jersey is in the top 20 in terms of states, in terms of getting claims out in the first 2 to 4 weeks, and they're getting 86% of their claims out in the first 35 days. However, other states are getting 90% of their claims out. No state's getting more than 92% of their claims out in the first 2 to 3 weeks, though, however. And in general, every state has had a different strategy in terms of their response. And some of them have tried one response and are doing swimmingly. So Rhode Island, for example, has pretty minimal responses and is getting about 90% of their claims out. Whereas Illinois had a huge amount of responses, or a huge amount of strategies to respond, and is still performing at about 60-70% of their claims out in the first 2 weeks. So it's you can compare sort of strategies that were adopted, but there are multiple factors that can contribute to why claims are not getting out. Including applicant error, employee error, errors in the system. There are multiple things that are involved in sort of doing that. And so it's a little bit difficult for me to compare apples to apples.
Thank you.
Most of the unemployment system.
Herman, I got a question. Looking at other states, states that used COBOL, do you know how many of them took advantage of updating COBOL without actually going through a new mainframe and things like that, by just switching over to the cloud, even on a temporary basis?
I do not. I unfortunately don't know which states do and do not use COBOL. I know Maryland used COBOL, but I don't know of any direct technological upgrades that they did. I do, Chairman, also want to add in there that I do know New York also went to a cloud-based service. They went to a cloud-based service with Google specifically, but those are the only real sort of like technological upgrades that I know of. Utah had pretty sterling program performance awards from the Department of Labor itself, and all they did was expand servers in terms of technological upgrades. I don't know that they made any direct upgrades to the COBOL system itself.
And just Mr. Henshaw, I assume $60 million was for a new operating system. But just even on a temporary base, going and utilizing the upgrades that the cloud offers with COBOL, a lot less expensive, I assume?
Basically, the upgrades to COBOL are very minimum from IBM. But the price will be, what does the cloud provider charge? I mean, that's, that will be the key to your ROI using the cloud. But if you went with the cloud, you would not have to pay to replace the hardware. You just pay for the time used on their hardware. So you could cut down the cost. Going to the cloud saves a lot of money. That's the reason a lot of organizations are going to the cloud. So, but I would personally, my own recommendation is take a look at the cloud. But still stay with the mainframes and COBOL within the cloud. That's my recommendation. And by the way, of those 27 states that failed, that crashed, about a half a dozen were not even using mainframes or COBOL. So it was more of they did not anticipate the volume increase overnight. That was a big deal. Those websites were built for low volume. And all at once they got clobbered with high volume, like unbelievable. So that's where the bottleneck was. The front end was not designed for the virus situation. So,
well, I want to thank this panel, this group, and your testimony is very, very enlightening. And I'll just leave you with this, Mr. Henshaw. That excuse was fine in the beginning, but certainly not after 1 year. So I'm as astounded as you are. The only difference is my phone in my district keeps ringing. With those people that are hurting and that need some answers. But again, I think testimony was terrific and very, very enlightening. Thank you very much, gentlemen. All right, now next on the panel are going to be people who actually struggled trying to get their UI claims done. If
I'm sorry, it's okay if I leave? I have an appointment.
Thank you very much. Very enlightening.
And I would quickly do a quick study followed by a thorough study, just so you know what the parameters are.
Well, I think we all agree with you, but it's the administration that's the one that has that capability and power. So let's hope that maybe we can convince them. Thank you. Okay.
Well, have a good day.
Thank you. Jamison Locascio and Vince Hoban, all three of you now, please feel free to tell us a little bit about your stories. We have quite many people that will be testifying, so please keep your remarks brief and concise. So we'll go in that order. Caller, please, first. Nope. Okay. We neglected to say Brittany Mahoney also is available. Brittany, would you like to testify? And then we'll come to caller. No, caller, you're there. Caller, can you hear us? Okay, we know you're there. So somehow get your 7-year-old grandson, like I do, to get yourself working there. Okay, can you? Why don't you speak to us, and that way we see if we can hear you, caller.
Are you talking to me? I'm sorry.
Are you caller?
Yeah, yes, I'm sorry. You have a little of an accent there. My name is Carla Laws. I'm married and I have 3 children. We live in Millville, New Jersey. Last March, like many, I was furloughed from my job. In September, the day before I was to be recalled, I was notified that due to economic circumstances, my position was being eliminated. My children have since been attending school virtually due to the schools being closed. That's made it really impossible for me to return back to the workforce. So I have been on unemployment since then. Unemployment has been a godsend for our family during these difficult days. It's helped us to pay our health insurance, doctor visits, medicine, and food for our family. On December 26th, my 13-week federal unemployment extension for benefits was exhausted. I'd been notified by the New Jersey Department of Labor that I was approved for the 20-week state extension of benefits. However, the following day, on December 27th, President Trump, by executive order, also issued an 11-week federal extension, which the New Jersey Department of Labor requires to be utilized prior to receiving the state extensions of benefits. Additionally, I qualified for the federal stipend, which was $300 a month, or a week, excuse me. So I was really taken back by surprise when I received a text notification from the New Jersey Department of Labor on January 5th saying that I would be unable to certify for benefits at this time, as they were updating their systems to add the new 11-week extension of federal benefits, and that in a few weeks, I would be notified when I could complete all past and current unemployment certifications. My benefits abruptly stopped with no prior warning, and I was unprepared at that time for the 9 weeks that followed. No communication came from the New Jersey Department of Labor during those next 2 weeks. Nothing for 3 weeks. I tried calling the unemployment offices every single day, several times a day. Most times I received an automated message that they were experiencing a high call volume and I was instructed to call back the following day. Of course, when I did, I just received the same message. There were a very few number of times that I actually was asked to hold for an agent by an automated message. I waited for as long as 75 minutes on hold to be disconnected before ever reaching an agent. No possible way to contact anyone to ask how long it was going to take for benefits to resume, without knowing when or even if I was going to receive unemployment. Not at all. I was rearranging bills. I was creatively figuring out how we were going to pay this bill, that bill, groceries, medicine. No way to get any answers. So desperate, I reached out to Senator Testa's office, and they informed me that there were approximately 75,000 other people in my shoes whose 13-week benefits were exhausted on or around December 26th of 2020. So there were over 75,000 of us who fell into this lapse. They assured me that they would advocate for us to get this issue resolved in a timely manner, and I appreciate their help so much. Desperate, I tried to contact the governor's office as well. I could not reach anyone there for days via phone, so I emailed them via their online messaging system, only to receive an automated message response about almost a week later, thanking me for contacting them and welcoming input. However, when I tried to reply to their email, my message bounced back. Desperate, I contacted the United States Department of Labor. They assured me that the 11-week federal extension and stipend payment had been made to the New Jersey Department of Labor weeks prior. So they assured me that they would contact the New Jersey Department of Labor liaison on my behalf. Desperate, I contacted Senator Van Drew's office, to no avail. Desperate, I contacted Cory Booker's office, again, to no avail. Desperate, I took to Facebook to see what information others were receiving who fell into the same group of people who had been apparently dropped through the crack of a dysfunctional, broken unemployment system. And this is where I was first made aware of the claim from Governor Murphy and Labor Commissioner Robert Asaro Angelo, who stated that they were and had been aware of this problem. And they also stated matter-of-factly to the press at northjersey.com on February 6th that though they thought this problem would be resolved by February 12th, it was actually taken care of in less than 24 hours. Also stating that those computer problems were seemingly fixed overnight instead of the anticipated 1 week. Again, on February 7th, northjersey.com reported that the programming issue that has glitched, causing over 78,000 New Jersey families to be left in the cold with a lapse in payments since December 26, 20, has been fixed, citing that these people's claims would be processed up and running by February 12th, 21 at the latest. This was simply a lie told to pacify the public. I was one of those 78,000 people who were in this specific group of claimants, and I was still unable to certify for benefits. Finally, on February 12th, I received my first call back from the New Jersey Unemployment Office. This was now 4 weeks after my initial call and message to them. I was told at that time that they are still working on reprogramming their system and that it would take a couple of weeks at least before they would be able to process claims for those like myself with benefits under the 13-week extension exhausted on December 26th. I mentioned that the governor and the commissioner reported that this glitch had already been fixed. The agent could not respond back as to why I would have to wait a couple more weeks then to certify. And in fact, after repeatedly questioning her as to why I'm being told something totally opposite from her superiors and even the governor, she hung up on me. A couple more weeks, and that is what I was initially told 7 weeks prior. 8 weeks after my last payment in December, I finally received a partial back payment, followed by the remaining back payment a week later. That is almost 9 weeks without unemployment. I don't know how this happens. I really don't. I don't know how Governor Murphy thinks that this is okay. I don't. Thankfully, I have a husband who is still employed. But had I been a single mother or father with no other income or savings I don't know what would have happened. This is really unacceptable. I was lucky. I was fortunate. I mean, it was hard. It was a very, very, very hard 2 months in our family. I can tell you this. But thankfully, I didn't lose my car and my kids didn't starve, but some did. I know that some did. Why was there no one whom I could talk to resolve this issue? I just don't understand that. No one. Not one single person in the whole state of New Jersey, in the Department of Labor or the governor's office even, for weeks, for months. I don't know why I could not get a hold of anyone. And trust me, for weeks, every single day, multiple times a day, I tried. I'm compelled to speak up for those like us, all 78,000 plus who were glitched, ignored, lied to, and lied about to cover up for inadequately failing to operate and manage our state's finances and operations. Because we matter. People matter. And finally, I want to state my sincere appreciation to Senator Testa, Assemblyman Antoine McClellan, and their staff for advocating on my behalf, and for thousands of others in the state of New Jersey, and for yourselves that are hosting this
Panel, thank you, Mrs. Laws. Thank you. Just stay right there because I know Mrs. Mahoney has some time constraints, so we're going to go to her next. You're up, Mrs. Mahoney.
Oh, great. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you for having me. Brittany Mahoney. I live in Hazlet, New Jersey, and I've got 4 children. 3 are school aged, and 1 is autistic. So you can draw your own conclusions what my issues have been. So going off of that, so I was, with no fault of my own, lost my job in June 2020. So this is last year. I applied for unemployment like everybody else, and I followed up because I'm very detailed and that's just what I do. And I'm going to just go I'm really like type A, so I'm going down and you'll hear all the bullets. So I emailed, I called, I was on every day, called at 8 a.m. I have been on unemployment before years ago. And the system, I don't want to say it wasn't broken. It just wasn't put together correctly, but it was functioning at that point. And I would call at 8 a.m. and, I used to be able to get in, wait, and I would get with somebody. So normally I did it every morning, 8 a.m., same time. And they would say, busy, call back the next day. I would keep calling. Now it's July, nothing. I've heard nothing, can't certify, can't get a hold of anybody. There's no one I can speak to. Now we get to August. I get an email saying that my claim is not payable. No reason, no explanation. It's just not payable for whatever reason. Now, finally, continuing to call, still nothing. Radio silence. I am now. No, my kids are home. They're virtual. I'm teaching. I have no income. So now I because I'm a mother hustler, I'm going to make it work because I have to feed my children. So, but mind you, they are home. So I finally secured a part-time job being a contractor, which was only a short term, but it was money for me. So I was working the best I could, long hours, early, late, whenever I could, running back and forth. And then I also picked up a second job, just trying to make ends meet whenever I could. Now, mind you, again, I have 4 children. So finally, I got an email in September that I can finally file for my benefits. Okay, great. So I filed for my benefits for the back end. I finally get those in September for the back end, which was a huge relief. Now September, now I am working for this contractor position. So I kept my unemployment. I was very honest, and I said I was working at that time, but I kept putting it in to make that current. And then when my contract ended, I stated that in unemployment, and I got paid the week that I wasn't working. And then all of a sudden, it just stopped. it just broke and crashed. And then I got my money. And then after that, it was error, error, error. I reached out to whoever I could. I got an email later on from somebody in the unemployment office who wanted to rectify some questions, because my employer from June has now denied my claim in January. I don't know why from June to now it's denied my claim. I'm not even going to start why anybody would deny anyone's claim. That's the point. So I made my explanation to the unemployment person that contacted me. We had frequent communication. I thought everything was handled. And then I get a random call out of the blue from an unemployment person saying I had an appointment. Never received an email, never received a letter stating I had an appointment. So I get this restricted phantom call from, I don't know who it is. And I have to be honest, they were speaking, you could tell that I couldn't understand them. They were mumbling. I had to listen to it at least 4 or 5 times. I have no idea who. I was like, who is this? I thought it was like my car warranty people calling again. So it was, it was not clear what it was for. And then I got another call, same thing the next day, saying I had an appointment, no indication that I was supposed to have an appointment, had no idea. Emailed my contact at unemployment. Again, radio silence. I haven't heard from him. It's now going on. So now I've lost unemployment again. I'm back in that broken system and nobody can figure it out. But then the plot gets thickened. I get an email later on, or no, it's not an email. I'm sorry. I get letters saying that I am eligible for benefits. I get not 1, not 2, 3, with actually saying I'm eligible with the amount that I'm eligible for, but yet I still can't claim it. I can't collect it. It says error, error, error. Then I get a Bank of America card and no explanation. I just get sent a Bank of America card and I call to see what's on it. It's at a 0 balance. I'm flabbergasted. I don't even know what to say. So, I mean, the system beyond broken. I've emailed, called. If it wasn't for Paula Augustino, the legislator that I've been speaking to, there has been radio silence on every level, and it's literally a broken system. I get error every time I put it in. What is the error that has occurred from the last time to this time? There should not be an error. And where is this? The people who started emailing me, calling me, that has stopped. I haven't heard from anybody, but I get these phantom letters. So it's like, it's 2 different unemployment offices. Like here's the letter, the mailman, and then here's the unemployment office that's broken. So somebody's not communicating. And honestly, in New Jersey, we pay some of the highest taxes in the nation. Unacceptable, unacceptable. What if I say, until I get my unemployment, I hold my taxes, because I'm not paying taxes and struggling, and for New Jersey to just put us to the side and say, you know what, thanks for your taxes, good luck. I think it's disgusting. I think it's disgusting. I have 4 children and I'm busting my butt to live in this state, and New Jersey should be there to help me and everybody else like me, and families and everybody. And guess what? We're all in the same body of water, but we're not in the same boat. Everybody has different situations and everybody needs help in some way, shape, or form. And New Jersey let every one of us down.
Thank you, Mrs. Mahoney. Understand, Mr. Hoban, you're up. You have some time constraints. If you can shine the light on your face, that way we could see you. And then,
well, I'll try to scoot down a little bit. Thank you, Senator, and I really appreciate the time you've given me to speak. My heart goes out to Brittany and Carla. I feel your pain. I want to say before I begin, before I tell you my story, that I'm very angry. I'm extremely, extremely angry listening to Bill Henshaw 1 year later, that this computer system is still not fixed. I have worked in the private sector for 33 years, not the public sector. And I can tell you right now, if Governor Murphy were in the private sector, his board would remove him, fire him, and replace him. And that is what we need. We need somebody to fire him. That's how I'd like to start. So this is my story. I have been in the private sector for decades. Nobody has ever given me a paycheck. I have been on commission since I'm 21 years old. I have never, ever been given a paycheck. I've earned every dime, and I've gotten it by hard work. And I'm a 1099, so I'm a little bit different than some other people. So when I lost my job because the government put me out of business pretty much, I went down rabbit hole after rabbit hole through the phone system for unemployment, and then tried 10 to 15 times per day going on to the unemployment insurance website. I got so good at it that I memorized all of the fields that needed to be populated, and I got through it rather quickly. There are about 6 or 7 pages of information that you have to enter. And then when you get to the end, I'm sure Brittany and I'm sure Carla know this, you'd hit send after going through 6 or 7 pages, and boom, it would freeze. So then you'd X out and you'd start again. So I want to really start by saying, if it wasn't for Jerry Scharfenberger and Paula Agostino, my problem would never have been resolved. I'm quite fortunate in that Paula really helped me and was able to get me through the system somehow. I don't know how that happened, but I went on to the website 10 to 15 times a day. I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, set my alarm. I did it at 6 a.m., 9 a.m., Sunday, Saturday. So I calculate that I probably, from March, April, and 3 weeks in May, before I was finally was able to get through, I probably entered that information in the computer probably over 1,000 times. Then when I was finally approved, I was given the state minimum. I make over 100K a year. I was given $231 a week. So then I had to go back and try to appeal this. I found out there was no real appeal process that was in place until probably September. I filed the appeal in September and finally got approved at the end of November. So the entire process took me about 9 months to get my claim processed. Listening to Bill Hinshaw, it's absolutely clear that the state needs to invest in new computer systems. $50–60 million is not a lot of money with all the waste that's gone on in this state for decades. They need IT specialists, and more importantly than anything else, they need best practices and compliance. You need best practices and to put compliance people in charge so that you can follow best practices. I can tell you right now, I'm in finance, and the market is being manipulated up. Interest rates are being manipulated down. Everybody knows it. And what I fear is that we're going to have a bursting of this bubble, and we're going to be right back to 2008. And I'll tell you right now, those who don't learn from history are condemned to repeat it. And if we have another 2008 situation with the mortgage meltdown, because stocks and bonds are way overvalued, there's going to be millions of people that are going to be flooding into this system again. I want to thank you for letting me tell my story, and I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. And again, I want to thank Jerry and Paula. You guys are awesome.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Vince.
Vince. Yeah.
Yeah, Jameson, do you want to tell us your story?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much to Senator Corrado for bringing me into this. I really appreciate having my voice heard. And I think a number of you probably heard my story already because I didn't give up. But thank you so much for actually letting me come on. I'm just going to read you the narrative. It's easier that way. So yeah, my name is Jameson. I worked at Bowtie Cinemas for the 7 years leading up to the COVID-19 crisis, shutting everything down. I was forced to go on unemployment while searching for work in a vastly diminished job market. Later on, or about December 27, 2020, I was approved for 20 weeks of state extended benefits, but somehow the state said that I would have to get the 11-week federal unemployment benefits instead. I tried to claim for the 11 weeks unemployment on 1/2/21, and it did not allow me to. The next 7 weeks were some of the most frustrating and trying periods of time I've ever experienced in my life. It would not allow me to claim unemployment benefits, and no one knew when I would be able to ever again. I had to borrow thousands of dollars to survive, worsening my debt and problems much further. I had no money for critical medication that I needed. No one at the Department of Labor would come to the phone or respond to phone calls, emails, or even form submissions, which I'm convinced don't go anywhere. I started to write to every person I could think of, and I know a number of you have received those messages with my name on them, as the situation stretched into week 4. I sent countless emails and made endless phone calls to all the state legislatures, hoping someone had some answers somewhere. I have to again give Senator Corrado's office credit for advocating for me on this issue, and credit also to the other New Jersey legislatures who were not in my district, who also attempted to provide information. Eventually, after more than a month of no answers, dwindling money, and no resources, someone actually did get somehow, magically, a Department of Labor employee to call me on the phone. And this is what happened, which is the worst part. The Department of Labor employee, unfortunately, started the conversation, and I have to be honest here, by being very nasty and condescending to me. While I attempted to remain professional, but I was obviously concerned. You can imagine that after all these days and weeks, I was anxious to ask her certain questions about my unemployment claim and when it would begin again or continue. But I was respectful to her while she continued to talk over me and cut me off at every single turn. The employee was very rude to me and immediately attempted to both condescend me and to control the conversation the way that she wanted it to go, as if I was completely in the wrong or doing something wrong just by simply asking questions. I did not get excited with her in any way, but increasingly she told me that I need to be quiet now, quote, be quiet now, and that, quote, she was talking, that she was talking. She then also made these following statements as I further asked for answers. The Department of Labor employee stated, "It is the legislature's fault, my problem with unemployment." This was baffling and untrue, as I told her that Corrado's office was helping, as well as a number of other people as well. When I explained that not knowing these answers to my questions is putting myself and my family in a compromised situation, I swear, she said this, and I have a witness. She said, "I don't care about your personal problems and I don't want to hear it." This is exactly what this woman said to me. It was unthinkable. I was completely stunned, and I said, "Can someone give me any real answers to my question?" She said, "Nobody knows the answers to your question." Okay, so here we go. When I then got more anxious for an answer, she told me that I needed to stop asking questions and, quote, I swear she said these next words to me exactly. This was unthinkable. "My name is on your claim and I can end this all for you if you don't stop talking." Okay, this is America last time I checked. A witness in my car was absolutely stunned that she had threatened me this way. I was distressed, but not unreasonable. And the truth is, if this Department of Labor employee heard me out or tried to do anything but belittle me, I think the conversation would have at least been productive, even if she didn't have the answers. I've spoken to countless senators, aides, professionals, and I have never had an argument or a tense exchange of words, anything like this, like I had with this employee at all during this entire matter, no matter how desperate it got and how much money I had to borrow. I mean, this was disgraceful treatment. I've lived in New Jersey my entire life, and I do hope some action is taken so that, never again is anyone spoken to the way I was. And I swear that all of these things were actually said to me. So thank you for your time. It's unbelievable. Thank you again for Senator Corrado for having me come on.
Thank you. Marianne O'Keefe, please. You're up, Marianne. You're muted. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Just let me know. Make sure I'm not a cat. Okay. Anyway, so I wanted to thank Ms. Dunn for letting me testify today. I just have a short thing to say, but just know that along with Carla and Vince and the other people who have testified today, that I also have problems with trying to get through to unemployment, being disconnected. And when you do get a person on the line after a long wait, you get different information every time you call. on the same topic. Whatever problem I had, whatever issue I had, if I got through to multiple people, I'd get a different answer, which was very confusing, and nothing happening of it. So what happened in my case was that in July of 19, I had lost my job. I was on unemployment for a short time, for a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks, and then had to go on to disability because I had to have surgery and recover. I was on disability until late November of 19, and then switched back to unemployment. Now, during that time frame, in between these dates, unemployment would periodically stop for no reason. I was doing my certifications every week, like I was supposed to, but for some reason they would stop. And again, I would try to contact unemployment. Sometimes I called, sometimes I emailed, never got answers to emails. I called Ms. Dunn's office at some point, shortly after receiving a call from unemployment, as I was testing positive for COVID, saying that they would release some funds for me to get me going, and then I should be able to file for an extension, as this was the year of my anniversary, unemployment anniversary being over. So this was now July 2020. So she released a lump sum and told me, again, to file a new online form for an extension, which I did. Sometime later, I received documents in the mail, 2 of them, one that said I was eligible, one that said I was not eligible. So you can understand my confusion with that. I again called Ms. Dunn's office and spoke with Judy, who's been wonderful through this whole thing. She was still trying to contact their liaison to try and get answers for me. And the latest thing was that the person told Judy that I should be able to certify. And I had told Judy I had still been trying to certify weekly, to no avail. So now I'm really in the same boat since the end of 2020. And from that time till now, nothing has happened. Nothing has changed. There's been no answers, no information, nothing in the mail, nothing from unemployment. And that's pretty much where I am in the short scheme of things. I didn't want to go into a long tirade over this because of, the fact that there were many, many phone calls, many emails, and nothing's getting done. I just want to thank Ms. Dunn's office again, and to Judy as well, for listening and hearing me out and really being a support. I'm just hope this thing comes about soon. I'm lucky enough that my husband right now is still working, but we're living paycheck to paycheck, and it's just not a comfortable thing. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Keefe. Before we bring up the next panel, are there any questions for these witnesses from any of the legislators that are Testa? No? Anybody else? Thank you. And again, our sincerest apologies for the way this government has treated you. Somebody had made mention of us paying some of the highest taxes in the country. Honestly, even if we paid some of the lowest taxes in the country, this is not the way human beings treat other human beings. Thank you once again. And next up, I believe we have, let's see.
I believe it's Denise Bexon, Senator Panaccio.
Okay, Denise, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay, you're up, Denise. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your time today and providing a platform to discuss this important issue. My name is Denise Bexon. I'm the Vice President of Human Resources for the Maury Organization in Wildwood, New Jersey. The Maury Organization encompasses Maury's Piers and Maury Resorts. We employ approximately 165 full-time associates and typically about 2,000 seasonal associates. At the Maury Organization, our philosophy has been to be a model employer and to assist our employees however possible. We always strive to do the right thing, and I'm speaking today to share our experience helping our many employees navigate the Department of Labor's unemployment process. I'd like to start by acknowledging the unprecedented number of unemployment claims. We all know the number of claims was monumental and the task Herculean. The task would have been difficult under normal circumstances, but add to it the requirement to work remotely, the need to get equipment to DOL employees' homes, and it becomes even more challenging. I know from constant contact with our furloughed staff that they were getting calls from the Department of Labor at night and over the weekends last spring. We appreciate the effort and the extra time the DOL employees took to get people cleared to begin receiving unemployment benefits. I also know within days of the shutdown, the Commissioner of Labor and Workforce Development, Mr. Robert Asaro Angelo, was conducting webinars and seminars. I attended no less than 5 such sessions and found him to be transparent, genuine, and compassionate. Most of our staff was taken care of in a timely fashion, but some that weren't were in a state of despair. They felt they couldn't get answers to their issues. They felt they had nowhere to turn and no timeline as to when their case would be approved. We spent many hours consoling those folks, listening to their frustration, and communicating with our third-party UI consultant. Through persistence, I was fortunate enough to be connected to a Department of Labor and employee, a one-stop associate who acted as a conduit for questions and concerns. This was immensely helpful, and I cannot thank him enough. He took my emails and calls and was prompt in getting back to me as soon as he could get answers. People will have patience when they feel there is some progress or some avenue for assistance when someone is there for them. In that context, we also found a great resource in Senator Testa's office. Our staff had such a sense of relief being able to speak to someone about the issue and feeling that someone was trying to assist them. I would like to thank Senator Testa, Brittany O'Neill, and the entire staff in the office for providing assistance, compassion, and comfort to our staff. We still have some staff now who were laid off in the fall who have not collected any unemployment payments. They do not know why their claim is held up. They are ready, willing, and able to take a call from the Department of Labor and answer whatever questions necessary to move their claim forward. It's been reported that those who have not received timely approvals likely answered a question incompletely or incorrectly, that the holdups are generally applicant error. That may be the case, and that's not the department's fault, but it is their problem to rectify for the future. I think there are many options for proactively improving the process so less folks find themselves in unemployment limbo. A couple of suggestions would be to create an external advisory board of employers, HR professionals, payroll professionals. Those folks can identify the questions that are confusing people. We're dealing directly with the population that's going in and applying. I don't know if you've gone through and read the questions. I have a master's degree and I'm in human resources, and I don't find all the questions to be clear. They should contain examples, be written in elementary level English, be plain text, and understandable by a lay person, someone with no unemployment experience. This group could also help with education and outreach. When I was trying to assist employees, I was doing a lot of research. There were people in the general public who had questions, learned answers, and were creating how-to guides and filming YouTube video tutorials. We sought those out, vetted them, and shared them with our team. We created screenshots, step-by-step guides to assist employees. We went on Zoom calls with them while they filed to assist them with the process. We took a hands-on approach, and honestly, our team members thanked us for the assistance and told us they were sharing our guides with friends who worked for other employers. We started to get phone calls from people in other parts of the state asking questions, seeking clarification and guidance. These are all things the Department of Labor can and should do. The DOL needs the resources to create these types of guides and should do regular outreach to employers who can share this with employees upon furlough. We are frequently in contact with our former employees. We can be a conduit for questions, concerns, and information. The Department of Labor should explore how to work in partnership with employers to best assist terminated employees. As is obvious from today's news reports and testimonies, that the DOL infrastructure needs an overhaul. It's been reported the system's old, clunky, and not easily adaptable to changing needs. Additionally, we were really pleased with the UI extensions in the state and at the federal level. However, there are some taking advantage of those extensions. The process to report employees who did not report back to work when work resumed is not easy or comprehensive. It's not built for bulk reporting. We reported 105 individuals who had work available and did not return. Of those, we had no status update on 80 of them, some of whom are still collecting UI today, nearly 9 months after being reported. And the UI claims hearing also needs a review. Human Resources or the employer registers for the hearing. However, if the claimant does not, we're not informed. We prepare and wait by the phone for an hour during the appointment time. If a claimant doesn't register or doesn't show up, no one notifies us. Our time is wasted. There should be a courtesy notice to the employer if the hearing is canceled, so we are not idly standing by for an hour waiting to see if we'll get a call or not. In conclusion, I think the Department of Labor did a very good job with the resources and system they had to work with, but like many things, COVID has shown us there is room for improvement. In my career, I've often found the best solutions come from canvassing a number of resources. I think the Department of Labor needs to explore more partnerships and external input to put together a proactive system and process that services the residents of New Jersey in a compassionate and swift manner. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Baxton. Mrs. Kennelly?
Good afternoon, everyone. So I represent the Bumblebee Company and the Snows brand here in Cape May. I have to say that I am the Environmental Health and Safety Officer here at the plant, and I am not Human Resources, but I found myself being Human Resources. We always have a shutdown in the winter. We are a live production plant for clams. So there's always a time for unemployment for our employees, and they are very used to that. They always go to the Wildwood office. Some of them, a good portion of them, speak Spanish and Spanish only, and they do need that face-to-face contact. A lot of them are not computer literate, do not know how to use the system, well, as Denise said, have no idea how to answer those questions. So it became very clear when we decided, based on Governor Murphy's issuance in March, to take the plant down because we did have a period of supply. We took the plant down to slow the curve. We thought it was the right thing to do. We brought the plant down in mid-March and held it down to probably the first or second week of May. During that time, we made all types of changes to the plant to accommodate our workers and make sure they were safe from COVID-19. We found a way. And that's what we need to do with unemployment. When they came back to work, 27 of our 51 employees had not received $1 while they were out. These are employees that are making anywhere from $14 to $17 an hour, and they are there as sometimes the only one in their family making money. At that point, I was panicked. I was panicked for all of them. They were desperate to come back to work, and I was desperate to help them in any way I could. I started looking into Facebook pages, all different types of information, because me, fortunately, living in New Jersey my entire life, I've never been on unemployment. I do not know what this is like. So I was determined. I would not end this process until every one of them was paid every dollar that they deserved and every dollar that they have paid into the system. I did have a good friend named Antoine McCollum. And so I reached out to him on Facebook and said, Antoine, is there any way that you can help me? As long ago, my daughter was Miss Ocean City, and that's how I knew Antoine McCollum. And he said, yes, call Brittany O'Neill at Senator Testa's office, and they will help you. We comprised a list of the 27 employees. And every single week, I would keep up to date with that office. And we would go through the system, going through every one of those employees. And it took almost 6 months before each one of those employees received all their back money. Each time one of those employees would come to me and say, MJ, oh my God, I got my money today. I would hold their hands. I would give them all the comfort in the world, and I would go to my office and I would cry. It was a relief to know that they had received their money. What ends up happening now is it's winter. It's getting towards January and we're ready for a winter shutdown. I know that this process is going to start all over again. To avoid these employees making the wrong selections, I sit with them, by me, next to me, and help them apply online. Still, 11 employees come back after winter shutdown with no pay. I go through the process again with Brittany and Senator Testa's office and Antoine, and we are going through the process. And to this day, we still have 3 out of those 11 who have not been paid. We are a small manufacturing plant. We do clams only. Bumblebee may be a large corporation, but it is not in New Jersey. We work very hard to keep our employees safe. We work very, very hard. We have had no cases of COVID on this site. I have worked between 16 to 20 hours a day to make sure they get their unemployment, to make sure they're safe, to make sure whatever it takes, because these employees mean the world to me. And it means the world to me that I had people to reach out and help me. But I know come July, because it's hot in this plant, we close for another 4 weeks. And I know that this process is going to start all over again. I need to make sure that we're going to make changes for the future. And while it's great that we upgrade a cloud or a system, we need face-to-face contact. These people that work for me need to talk to a person. We can put up plexiglass screens and on the Department of Labor offices, whatever we need so that they can communicate. But here at Bumblebee, we have values, and our values are that we come together, we act right, we find a way, we show love, and we focus forward. And I believe our values need to be passed on to the Department of Labor. We need to make sure that the employees who work in New Jersey that pay into a system are able to get the money they deserve in a timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Jo. Senator Testa?
Thank you, Senator Panaccio. MJ, Denise, you're both constituents of mine, and I have to say, I've been following along with what you've been doing this entire COVID-19 era, and I have to thank you. I mean, you truly are heroes for South Jerseyans and for your industry and for your businesses. And I hope Bumblebee and the Maury Corporation appreciates, the gems that they have in their business for helping out what really should have been, a state job. MJ, you said it best. These people have paid into unemployment. These are benefits that they are owed, and yet they're sort of in the ether, in the wasteland somewhere, just in limbo, wondering what's going to happen. And when someone is making, the level of money that they're making in that job, they absolutely live paycheck to paycheck like so many other New Jerseyans. They cannot go a month, 2 months, 3 months without receiving their unemployment benefits. It's shameful. We do need a better system. We've known for years and years that this was going to be a problem. I believe it was during the McGreevey administration that we were told we needed to upgrade our unemployment system, and nothing has been done. We knew at least by April of last year that we needed to upgrade our system to better handle the hundreds of thousands of New Jerseyans who were going to be out of work. We didn't. New Jersey failed. So MJ, Denise, thank you so much for testifying here today. Your stories are powerful, they're real, and I have to thank you both so much, for being my constituents and for doing the jobs that you do each and every day. Thank you.
Anybody else on the panel that has any questions? Assemblywoman Dunn?
Sorry, less of a question, just more of a comment. I just wanted to thank MJ and Denise, truly. And I can't help but think about all the others that don't have angels like you assisting them and, being with them every step of the way. And again, that does speak to the failure and perhaps the lack of values that MJ mentioned, that we need to make sure that, of course, we're going to do a technology upgrade, but also look at the culture and the customer service and how we treat our fellow residents. So it was very moving testimony from you both, and thank you so much for all your tireless advocacy.
Anybody else? All right, we'll save our Senator Corrado. We'll save, if there's any closing remarks, we'll go through the panel again. But I do have a question for Mrs. Beckinson to show you that we do listen. It was testimony about an hour ago is that the state was basically a 9 to 5 when it came to handling these UI claims. Yet I heard you say that somebody from the Department of Labor had called you up at night. I assume that was off hours. Am I correct?
Correct. Yes, I heard his testimony. They didn't call me, but I was staying in touch with all our employees, and I had several that got calls 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, as well as over the weekend. Someone got a call Saturday of Easter weekend even. So
I appreciate
that's our experience.
First and primary for me in this panel is that we get to the truth. Okay, now it could have been public policy that the Department of Labor only worked 9 to 5, and some of those people took it upon themselves to go the extra mile. It would have been very, very, very helpful if we had somebody such as the commissioner to answer that question, whether it was policy from the Department of Labor to work 9 to 5, or whether they did, go the extra mile on their own or through initiatives from the Department of Labor, such as overtime and things like that. But again, in searching for that truth, I just want to bring that out. And to those people that did make those calls off hours, thank you very, very much. And again, it would be nice if we did have that subpoena power to compel some of these administrators to tell us exactly what they did or they didn't do. Now, thank you, panel. Thank you, witnesses. In closing up, do we have anybody that wants to make closing remarks? Senator Corrado?
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to point out too quickly that we agree that the walk-in centers need to be open. They've been closed since March, and you lose that one-on-one contact and all the people that they could be helping that need that in-person communication. So we agree with you absolutely, and we're advocating for that as well. I want to thank all the witnesses. The stories aren't easy to tell. And unfortunately, these are the stories that we hear in our legislative offices every day and have heard every day for the last year, over and over again. And they absolutely tug at your heartstrings. If you think we're not untouched by this, you would be wrong. We cry when we hang up the phone because the stories are so heartbreaking. We have partnered with food banks, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but we have done that to make sure that our constituents are not going hungry. We're very lucky that there's some wonderful groups around and people have been incredibly generous. We've had people that have given their stimulus checks because they didn't lose their jobs and they have purchased food for the community. We keep food in our office. We have had people come here to get food. If that doesn't break your heart, I don't know what will. Governor Murphy has never missed a paycheck during the pandemic. The Department of Labor Commissioner has never missed a paycheck during the pandemic. People that are hurting, the people in New Jersey lost their jobs through no fault of their own. We owe them better. They deserve answers. We need to move forward and fix this problem. We can't keep talking about it. It should have been done already. It's not acceptable that after a year, people still haven't received a dime. We know that there were things that could have been done. We know that people don't have access to computers like other people do. We partnered with our local libraries and they entered the claims for people. So if we could figure that out very quickly, that was done. Certainly the state of New Jersey could do a better job. I agree with Senator Panaccio. It's time for them to come forward. We need a bipartisan panel to get to the bottom of this and answer the questions. If we don't do it honestly and we don't do it in a bipartisan fashion, we are going to continue to make the same mistakes over and over again. We will not stop until every single person in the state of New Jersey has gotten the unemployment that they're entitled to. We will continue to be here. Our doors are open. They never closed. And the administration needs to be reminded that they need to open up as well. Our businesses are pushing to go back to business. Let everybody get back to work. Thank you.
Assemblywoman Dunn?
I echo the senator's comments about it's time, open up. The one-stop centers, they should be there to address concerns, and everything that has been said already, so I don't want to drag it on, but enough is enough. And I'm just so happy that we've been able to have this hearing today to really expose so many different aspects of all the challenges that folks have been experiencing. And it is heartbreaking. We have to take self-care checks here in the office, make sure that we don't harbor it. And we do. We've become kind of a one-stop center ourselves to patch people with housing services, childcare, any, further assistance because they have been unable to access it. And we'll hear from the administration, well, there's a moratorium on evictions. What kind of answer is that, and how short-sighted? Because we know that crisis is going to come tumbling down on us just in a matter of months. But how do I say to the constituent that lost his or her car, that now can't even get to a job interview and try to get a new job? So, like I said, we're here. I will make sure that every claim gets resolved. I do have the commissioner's cell phone in my number in my cell phone, as most of us do, and we are trying, round the clock. So thank you again.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Senator Shapisi?
Thank you. And I just want to thank everybody for their testimony today. I know how personally difficult it has been for each and every one of you trying to navigate through, just times that are unprecedented for all. But I think you realize that everybody who is on the Zoom call is committed to changing things for the better. And it's not just a function of pointing fingers or pointing out deficiencies, but it's a function of really coming together and having an open, robust dialogue on how we fix these issues and don't allow them to continue to fester and continue to harm those that we represent. Partnering to try to bring our residents. I represent an area that's known to be fairly wealthy. I partnered with Larry and Sarah and ShopRite to get food cards to ShopRite to give to our 50 worst cases coming out of my legislative office so people could have food for the holidays. It's really surreal to think that in Bergen County and Passaic counties in New Jersey that people who are making six-figure salaries because of losing a job are barely getting by in the state because the cost of living is so high, and how a couple of months of not receiving an unemployment check can tip the delicate balance of people's lives so badly. So we are here, we are committed to trying to find a better pathway forward. And we just want to thank you for participating and bringing to our attention your experiences as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Assemblyman Schaffenberger.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to say thank you to the witnesses who came forward. And even though we've been dealing this for about a year now, it was eye-opening to hear some of the stories that we've heard. And my office has been very fortunate to have forged relationships with people in the Department of Labor who have helped us get a lot of these cases resolved. But to hear the treatment of people who are finally getting somebody on the other end of the phone when they're already going through one of the worst life-altering changes that you can go through is totally unacceptable. And that could be stopped immediately. That's not a long-term thing. That can be done right away. But what I will say is that my office, and I think I speak for everybody on the call today, our offices will continue to be advocates for anybody who finds himself in this position. And we will do everything possible to help get this resolved until the long-term fixes are in. So with that, thank you, Senator, and thank you everyone for participating in the call here.
Thank you, Assemblyman. And in closing, there's different philosophies of governing. Some of us believe in leaner government, but also more responsive and accountable government. And then there's those who believe in a ever-expanding larger government, cradle to grave. Well, this past year, we've seen that. With the executive orders, it's basically been cradle to grave dominance over the citizenship in the state of New Jersey. That administration, the administration may be satisfied with ultimately, after going through hoops, 86% of people getting their unemployment. Well, if you're 14% of the people that still hadn't gotten those unemployments, will still struggle to pay their rent, to pay their mortgage, to put food on the table, gas in your car. We heard one gentleman who's struggling to pay for life-saving medicines. If you still struggle that way, please listen, administration. Do not take solace in the fact that you think you're doing a good job. The money to pay for the upgrades was there. And it was there because the federal government gave it to us. We abdicated our responsibility for some odd reason. There's no way to explain it. For some odd reason, they chose to do nothing. So if going forward, hopefully we can shake that tree and get that money. There's more federal dollars coming in, and we still haven't seen how the rest of those dollars were spent initially from the initial CARES money, but we have to do something, and we have to do it now. Even if we do it now, it's going to take 3 months in order for it to come to fruition. We heard that testimony. But if you don't start now, when? So again, I thank all the panelists, my legislators. Thank you very much for joining us today. And again, thank you all the witnesses for your stories. And again, I apologize for you. I apologize on behalf of what the administration did and did not do for you. And I apologize on behalf of the legislatures for not doing their job, not having their oversight, doing their due diligence. You had more effort going into a bridge gate where nobody was hurt, forming committees with subpoena power. And yet 1/3 of businesses failing, 10,000 people dying in nursing homes, and countless numbers of people waiting for their unemployment doesn't measure up to even the level of Bridgegate. So I apologize for that, and hopefully in the future, we can give you a not bigger, but more responsive and more accountable government. Thank you all. Stay safe, and God bless you all. Thank you.